Okay, so it is time for a spring fruit tree wrap up. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here today. It is a very early May 3rd morning, 2020. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to go ahead and wrap up our spring planting season and review all of, at least the majority of, the fruit trees we actually were able to get into the ground here this spring. So now what you see behind me here would actually be our western orchard, but it's not where we're gonna start. We're actually gonna start with the first tree we put in the ground and head up to our citrus section. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so here we are, we're actually in our citrus section, which is really kind of the sparsest area that we have as far as our fruit trees are concerned. The vast majority of it has nothing. In fact, in this area, all we have is our honey mandarin. Now the honey mandarin's doing pretty good. One of the things that we are gonna do in a different video is review some of the ways that we've been able to get temporary water up to our trees while they're still small. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get to that. Either way, the honey mandarin's doing really good, put on a lot of flowers as soon as we got it into the ground, and there's a bunch of little tiny fruit on there that we're gonna have to make sure we remove. Now as Lori pans that way, you're also gonna see a few other things that we put into the ground. The first one would be our hedge of kumquats. Now the only thing that we had here as far as a challenge is the kumquat all the way on the right hand side, which is our nagami. That one, we messed up a little bit on the irrigation and it wasn't getting water until yesterday, actually, as far as we can tell. So it did have some leaf drop, and that's actually how we caught it. So I think we caught it early enough. She's still got plenty of good, solid green growth on this side of the tree, as well as on the bottom of the back side of the tree. But overall, I think we've got her fixed. The rest of that is doing really, really well, nice and green. And we've had some 100+ degree days here already at the end of April, heading into May. So overall, I think those look really good. Let's go ahead and walk around and take a look at that mulberry hedge we put in. Okay, so we have the mulberry hedge behind me. Overall, the trees are doing really good. They've established well. One of the things with these, I think I might have mentioned it when we did the video, is I was gonna pull all the fruit off of it. Yeah, we didn't do that. We've been harvesting these little raisin-sized mulberries that are just fantastic. Love eating them fresh, love eating them in smoothies. I'm gonna have Lori slide in because we actually still have some on here. Come take a peek. Okay, so you can see this tree is still loaded with fruit, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick one because these guys are really good. So if Lori wants to slide in, you guys have seen these before, but that is a little tiny ever-bearing mulberry. So now this is about the size of a raisin, but I can tell you it doesn't taste like a raisin. It's oh so much better. So early in the morning, that's good. I think I'm gonna have to get one for Lori. Either way, you can see these trees so far are doing really good. I see a lot of new growth on these trees. We check the irrigation every day to make sure they're getting plenty of water, and they are. So really looking forward to how these are gonna do. It'll be interesting because these trees are planted so that they have, as you can see, morning shade, and then they get really pounded by that mid-morning through afternoon sun, which is part of the reason why we put them here. So this will be a really good test to see how these do with half a day's sun and just getting blasted with that summer hot heat. Okay, so before we get too far into the rest of the planted trees, I wanted you guys to take a peek at all of our potted trees. For the most part, these are doing okay. We do have a blackberry in here that was struggling a little bit when we got at and above 100. But overall, they're doing pretty good. Got some white mulberries, actually. In fact, we're here. Really good. So these are doing great. Apple tree is doing fantastic. And what I think is doing really well and helping is, again, that morning sun like we're getting now, but that afternoon shade for these potted trees. Either way, I wanted to give you guys a quick peek at these. Okay, so here we are. We're gonna go ahead and start on the western orchard. This is our most complete of the orchards that we have established at this point in the spring. A lot of stone fruit. We got all of these. Everything you see behind us here is from Reed at RSI Growers. Overall doing fantastic. Let's go ahead and look at a few different things we have planted. First thing would be your first set of trees here. So the first 4 trees in each one of these rows, they're all different varieties of peaches. Now I should say different varieties. There's 3 varieties that we have growing here as far as peaches are concerned. So this first one that we have here is one that we're actually testing for the first time. Some of you out there probably already have it, but it's the Early Grande. We went ahead and got 4 on Reed's suggestion. So he says they're amazing and it will trump the Florida Prince. We'll see about that. Either way, we're giving it a shot. Like we had talked about in our planting videos, we do have a couple of different rootstocks that we're doing here and trying out for Reed to see how they're going to do here in the soil. One thing that we've found pretty quickly is the trees themselves are establishing well with only a couple of exceptions. So I think they're going to do great. So we got peaches right up here in the front. Let's go and take a few more steps down and see how the trees are doing and a couple more things we got growing on this side. So we're about a third of the way back on the western orchard here, and you can see the trees themselves are doing really, really well. So we've got the peach trees that we just passed. We're coming into some of our hybrid trees. One last peach tree here, you can see growing nice and vertical. We got a few more that are growing nice and bushy as well. And then we got a couple that are doing okay, maybe not quite as aggressive when it comes to the growth. So we got our last Early Grande here, and then we have a peach hybrid. So that's a peach hybrid that's a little bit on the small side, but overall the growth on it's still really, really good. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you guys an idea. We're gonna go look at one of our Florida Prince peaches, take a look and see just how much new growth this tree has on it. Okay, so you can see here, it'd actually be really easy to tell once Lori slides in a little bit closer, just how much growth we've gotten on this. So this tree's been in the ground for I think about a month or so, but you can see just this nice, beautiful flush of new growth on the top here. All of this is new growth. It's pushing out really good, strong branching down here nice and low, which is exactly what we wanted to see. And overall, I think the graft looks fantastic. But the tree itself establishing really, really good. And seeing that in all of these older, more established trees. Either way, this one looks really good. Let's go ahead and head back to one that's struggling just a little bit. Okay, so here's a tree that we have that's struggling a little bit. And we've noticed that it has been from the very beginning. So this is a Nectarine Plum hybrid. And obviously you can see the foliage itself is kind of sparse. It's getting some bug damage. I think this might be one of those, there's like a leaf cutter bee, and I'm pretty sure that's what is attacking this thing. Either way, it's really the only one that we've seen that's really had a hard time. So now it is double grafted, so there's a second graft here and then the main graft that you can see here. We did check to make sure it's getting plenty of water, and it is. So it's really the only one out here in this orchard that's struggling just a little bit. So we'll have to see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be okay. Okay, so next tree we wanted to stop and show you. This is a Katy Apricot. So I'll tell you what, we had this at the old property and wasn't super impressed with the tree as far as production, but it's a beautiful tree. You can see it's doing amazing. Again, graft is sealing up and healing really, really well. And you can see the growth on it, just amazing new growth on the tips here, doing great. Got new branching. I mean, this branch is brand new. So overall, this one's doing really, really well, growing nice and strong. So wanted to show you that. Okay, so next stop I wanted to make here on the Western Orchard. This is a Plum Cherry hybrid, and you can see this one, again, same thing, doing really, really well. Now, this one we have 2 of them, one on one rootstock, one on another, and this one's doing a lot better, at least so far, than that other rootstock. So this one's doing great. A lot of new growth on the tips, bushing out really, really good. Really excited to see this. I know that the fruit production on this is amazing, and seeing this strong growth out of a nice young tree like this makes me really, really happy. Okay, next up, this would be our Burgundy Plum. So this actually is the pollinator for that Plum Cherry hybrid we were just at. Got a couple of them right behind Lori. And this Burgundy Plum, I'll tell you what, so far, this is our best performing tree. So it's been in the ground for about a month. Got a tremendous amount of new growth on here, brand new branching coming out from almost everywhere. This thing's just exploding. What's great is we have this rabbit cage on here, and I think it's actually helping to kind of direct the tree up, holding all the bushiness up, so it's going to be more vertical. But what I also know about this particular variety is it does have a tendency to grow vertical, so this is not uncommon at all. But you can see bushing out in this rabbit cage just looks amazing. Okay, so we're getting to the back portion. A lot of this you can see is still open. We have a lot of open space for different types of nut varieties that we want to get into the ground. Got a couple more of our plum hybrids that are right here on either side of me. So we got those there. And then in that corner, we have all-in-one almonds. So we got a couple plantings of all-in-one almonds. And I believe those are on 2 different rootstocks. And then in the far corner there, we have a couple of pomegranates. And the pomegranates are doing really good. In fact, I want to give you a close-up of that one, the far one. Okay, so I wanted to give you a close-up of this. This is the Granada pomegranate. As Lori slides in, you're going to see this tree is setting a bunch of flowers all over the place. And so I'm going to twist all these off. Obviously not all here on camera, but definitely do not want this thing trying to fruit, because that's exactly what it's trying to do. I don't know how many are on here, at least a dozen or more. I was pulling some off this morning. But also, as I'm looking at this, so we've got some growth coming out here, actually coming from the roots, which is great to see as well. So can definitely tell this thing here is really going to start to take off. Really excited to see this. The other pomegranate's doing really good as well. A lot of new growth that's flushing out on it, all the way back here, about as far away from the house as we have when it comes to plantings on the fruit trees. So now what we need to do is we need to head over to the other side of the property, get over to our eastern orchard. Okay, so here we are, we're on the eastern orchard, a lot more sparse, and the reason why is our pome fruit isn't ready yet. So hopefully Reed will have that for us here in the fall, fingers crossed. So we've got a lot of apple trees that'll be at the front, but here at the back is where we have all of our figs. So the fig trees, with the exception of one that we got from Reed right in the middle, which is our Black Mission fig, the rest of these are actually from the old farm. So for the most part, they were cuttings that we rooted out ourselves. So starting back in that corner, the tallest one we have is that Cadota. So we got a regular Cadota back there. Moving back, we've got a blackjack fig, so it's a little bit smaller. That one does stay more like a bush. Coming back towards us here, this is a brown turkey fig. A lot of the fig videos we did on the old property was a couple of brown turkey figs we had, and obviously that's a cutting from one of those trees. Here behind me here, this is a Peter's honey fig doing really, really well. And in front of that is a panache greening up really well also. So these look great, establishing really well. Now what I want to do is I want to scoot forward just a little bit. You guys need to take a peek at all of our pear trees. Okay, so I wanted to stop and take a look at all of our pears. So really excited about pears, because one of the challenges we have with apples is getting apples into the fall, a ripe apple into the fall. So we're hopeful that with one variety that is Reed specific, that's the Waddell pear, and also we already know with our Asian pears, we can get those into the fall. So we're really excited about these. The first 2 pears that we have in the front there are Seckel pears. Those we have from the old property, so hopeful that those will actually get a chance to fruit, because we never got fruit off of them there. Then we've got these 2 here that are cat-a-corner from each other. Those are Reed's Waddell pears. Both of them have very, very strong growth, which is great to see. Actually very, very good growth. We'll get a close-up on one in here in just a minute. Then we have our Shinseki and our 20th century Asian pears. So these are newer plantings. Actually, they've taken really, really well here over the last couple of weeks. What's great to see is with that hot weather, they're still growing nice and strong, staying nice and green, no leaf wilting at all at 100 degrees. So they look really good. But what I want to do, I want to slide across here. I want to show you the growth that we're getting on these Waddell pears. Okay, so here's our first stop on our little Waddell mini tour. Let me tell you what, this little guy's doing amazing. Now, we've added a lot of heavy wood chips here because we wanted to make sure that we mulch the root ball, and it's doing a good job doing that. But these trees, pear trees generally grow pretty vertical, and we're gonna do something a little bit different with these than we did on the old property where we had an open center pruning method. We're gonna do something a little different, I believe. Either way, we've got some amazing new growth. This branch right here was not there when we planted it. So you can see we've got over a foot of new growth there. We've probably got a good 8 inches here, about 6 inches down here, bushing out here down at the bottom as well. This tree is doing really, really good. Also looking at the graft is healing over really well, and it's growing in nice and strong. So great to see this one. We've got another one I want you guys to look at as well. Okay, so now this would be the second one that we have, and this right here, so from where my finger is to the top, that's new growth. So all of that's over a foot of new growth. That all has come in. This is where it was when we planted it. So this tree just growing amazing. And this branch, so this is basically the central leader. So this is gonna be the trunk. This trunk is already nice and thick. I'm gonna guess that this is probably well over 1/4 of an inch. So just a nice, strong growth that's coming out of this Waddell pear. Looks amazing. So what I want to do, we're here, I want to head up to the front, show you guys how our mulberries are coming along. Okay, so I'm going to start with our contorted mulberries. You'll see the mulberries in the back, but I'm going to start with our contorted. So we actually got fruit on this. In fact, if Lori wants to slide in, let me show you what a contorted mulberry fruit looks like. So you can see this here, and I posted this up on our Instagram page, but you can see that is a shot of a contorted mulberry that's actually ripe. So size-wise, it's almost identical, in fact, to the Illinois everbearing mulberries that we have. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick this. You get an idea. Again, looks, let me get out in the sun. So it looks, again, almost the same. The actual individual like nodules or lobes or whatever, they're a little bigger, but it looks a lot the same. Lori, sorry, I can't share this one. Oh, wow. Okay, so there's not a lot of, it's not very big, but really, really good as far as taste. And then growth. This tree is growing amazing. So this branch right here, when we put it in the ground, was about here. Hopefully you can see my fingers down at the bottom. And it's got about 8 inches of new growth. And for a contorted variety, you can see it up here at the tip. When it grows, because it has to grow sideways and then sideways and then sideways and then sideways. So to get 8 inches of growth out of there, that's like the equivalent of 10 or 11 inches on another type of straight branch. So this you can see doing amazing. The one behind me here is also a contorted mulberry. It's getting nice and bushy. We actually broke the tip off of it when we planted it. Right after we planted it, I broke the tip off of that thing. So now it's bushing out down at the bottom, but bushing out really, really well. So overall, these two varieties doing great. Now, what we need to look at is we need to look at our ShangriLa mulberries. Let's go peek at those. Okay, so here we are. We've got our 4 ShangriLa mulberries. All of these were air layered off of our tree on the other property, and all of them are doing fantastic. You can see how well they've done. They've been in the ground for about a month now, and they're doing well. A lot of new strong growth on these. You know, to see those 100-degree days and to see them this bright green is a great sign. Really love seeing that. What's even more exciting, I'm gonna have Lori slide into this one. We've been harvesting off these for the last couple weeks. So again, it's a young tree, brand new in the ground, and I know I said I was gonna pull the fruit, and I couldn't do it. So you can see it's loaded with fruit that's not quite ripe yet. A lot of fruit on here. And we got one at the top that's probably about as ripe as I think it's gonna get. It's gonna go ahead and harvest that one. And I already know what these taste like. Oh yeah, so good. So obviously really exciting to see these coming along really well. I'll tell you what, the real challenge with these trees is gonna be June. One of the things we noticed with our ShangriLa mulberry at the other house is that it really struggled in June. In June, you would get leaf drop, leaf yellowing. I mean, these are more of a tropical type of mulberry. The leaves get massive. I've got a picture on our Instagram of one that's gotta be 13 or 14 inches, about the size of my torso. Just massive. So the leaves get really big, beautiful leaves. But one of the challenges is that really hot, dry weather. It's not so much the heat because it comes back in August and comes in real strong in September with some extra growth. but that dry heat in June really has a tendency to stress these trees out. So we're hoping the way we have the rings designed here on this farm and the way we're doing the irrigation on these, at least for now, is going to really give these guys a chance to really push through that month strongly. Okay, so it's getting warm. We need to wrap up, but ultimately I wanted to give you our totals. So we have 55 trees that we were able to get into the ground. We still have a few potted trees, but our in-ground total for spring was 55 trees. And I'll tell you what, that's a fraction of what we're gonna wind up with by the time we get our first real round done. I think we've got 120, 130 more trees on our list. And of course, that list just keeps growing. So obviously one last shot of our eastern orchard here, coming along really well. And I think what I'd like to do for you guys, because we get a lot of people that ask questions about fruit trees and growing fruit trees and that kind of thing. Obviously, we're showing you the process from the very beginning. And obviously our circumstances are a little bit different because we're a farm, but what I want to do is kind of show you what you would do in a backyard scenario as best I can. And then also just kind of asking you guys how often you'd like to see these updates. You know, my thinking as we get in through the summer months, obviously we won't be planting trees. They're new trees, so we're just going to be kind of keeping an eye on them. But I'm thinking of doing a monthly update as we get through summer to just get an idea of how everything looks. I think I'm also going to talk a little bit about irrigation as we go through the summer months because there's a lot of questions there. But ultimately just want to find out from you guys what you would like to see and how often you'd like us to cover it. So leave those in the comment section down below. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Questions or comments, leave those in the comment section down below. Instagram and Facebook, we post content there you won't see here on the YouTube channel. And our Amazon shop, I'll leave a link down in the description. That's a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with that link, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. Mulberries. Okay, so it is time for a spring fruit tree roundup. Wrap up, not a roundup. Okay, so we're about halfway through, well, not even halfway, maybe a third of the way. So we're about a third of the way through on this pasture. And as Lori kind of scans around, you'll see just how well these... I said pasture? What the heck? Okay, all right, so we're about a third. We're in the pasture. We're in the orchard. I need some coffee again. Okay. And it's really the only one out here in this pasture that's struggling just a little bit. I said pasture again. I don't need no stinking sheet, I got this. This is the box on my face though.
Can't see the screen, it's black.
Can't see the screen. Hopefully you guys can see this. The first two on the far side of me would be Waddell pears. A lot of good new vertical growth. I lied. Those are, I guess I do need the list. You told me. Okay. Listen to your wife. Okay, I get excited when I talk about fruit trees. Especially when I call the orchard a pasture.